You're listening to a mini episode of the Practical Permaculture podcast.
Hey,
Hi, here
welcome
we
to
are for another mini episode.
Look at us talking over each other again. What are we talking about this time?
We are talking about, is permaculture or having a permaculture garden expensive and only for
Oh,
people who can
great topic.
afford it?
Do you know what? I love this topic
Yes.
because I've had so many people say to me, "Oh, you do that permaculture thing. Oh, no, I couldn't do that. That's too expensive." And then you try and have that conversation, but it's not a 5-minute conversation. Well, on this podcast, it's going to be a 10-minute one, but it's it's hard to sort of, I suppose, convey that. But I suppose the short answer is no, it's not expensive at all.
Mm, yeah. And I guess it just, permaculture inherently isn't expensive, or doing a permaculture garden isn't inherently expensive. It's what you choose to have in your garden that ends up being expensive. Like if you want to do big sandstone blocks and you want retaining walls that are made out of certain materials, or yeah, of course it's going to cost money, but that doesn't mean that permaculture is dictating that you have a sandstone block wall. Or the way you choose to do your garden beds. You can just mound some dirt. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
you need to factor in pests and wildlife and those kinds of things and think about it within your system, but there are cheap ways to do gardening, and permaculture doesn't tell you to spend lots of money. In fact, if anything, it's asking you to, close the loop and use recycled
Mm-hmm.
materials and create connections and barter and trade. So really it should be the opposite, but
Exactly.
it depends what you have access to, I guess.
And it comes down to what that design is, the context, and as you said, what is it that you actually want to achieve? If you want all the bells and whistles, then yeah,
Mm,
be prepared that if you're not going to be sourcing those from local places or free resources, then you're going to have to put your hand in your pocket. That's just the way
yeah,
life is. But there's so many
yeah.
resources out there that you can save from landfill and utilize those in your garden. I mean, I have piles all over the property. It's not pretty, and we're going to tidy them up soon, but they're piles of reclaimed materials. And that's either been from we've been driving down the road and we're like, oh, there's a heap of sheet metal there, or someone's throwing out some fencing, or um, anything really. I mean,
Yeah.
we've picked up cat carriers, we've picked up baskets, we've picked up all sorts of stuff. But also, I'll jump on.
Trampolines.
Pardon, sorry.
Trampolines.
Trampolines, yes. Yeah, we've repurposed multiple trampolines. And go figure, your kids came here and actually used one of our repurposed trampolines as a trampoline, which was really nice to see because it was never
Trampoline.
intended to be a trampoline. um, but there's,
Funny.
depending on what you want to do. And I mean, those trampolines, for example, right now they're providing shade. We've got one up in the paddock, the sheep sleep under that. We've got one in the orchard, and the ducks go in under that, and it's also protecting our baby finger limes. So it's got the purpose right now of providing shade. They will be repurposed eventually and be chopped up and be used as hoop houses. So they will get,
Mm,
another life, and then who knows? We'll probably use them again as something else at some stage in their life. So very rarely does something leave the property here if we can reuse it.
yeah.
Um, the only time it ever goes to landfill is when it has absolutely been done and dusted. It cannot be recycled. So, the metal goes to the recyclers. Um, but if there's absolutely nothing that can be done, then it unfortunately has to go to
Mm,
landfill. But we make sure that we
yeah.
squeeze out every possible inch of everything that we bring onto the property. So yeah, there's
Mm.
so many things. I
Well,
mean,
like, let's,
marketplace, free resources.
yeah. Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, let's take my garden for example. I could have ordered a huge amount of soil. I could have ordered a huge amount of mulch
Mm-hmm.
and compost and all kinds of things to make my layered compost beds. But instead, I've spent a shitload of time down at the beach collecting seaweed. Like, yes, that's my time and effort, but it's a free resource.
Mm-hmm.
I've been on Marketplace, like you said, and I've got some lovely aged Yuki mulch that someone's chipped a tree. It's been sitting there, has all these like, fungus and stuff growing in it, and it was beautiful and
All
broken
the
down
good
when we got
stuff.
it. We're using branches that we've found around from the blocks that are here next to us. We're using grass that's been, across the road, the paddock been slashed. You can find these resources if you really want them. We've paid for $9 worth of horse poo for the whole area of our garden bed right now. And we've paid for some corrugated iron and secondhand timber from the tip shop. So we're doing pretty good so far. And if you really spend some time and effort, you can definitely find these things
Yeah.
either free or quite cheap. And I think just changing your mindset, like you said too, like I do want things to look pretty. I have that kind of standard for my backyard. And I was thinking about how I want to do my garden beds for some of our bigger things like
Hmm.
pumpkins that sprawl or watermelon and stuff like that. And I've been trying to source some big tanks, some old tanks that have holes in them that we can slice up and use as big garden beds. But I was like, you know what? There's all these bathtubs sitting down at the reuse center that are all gross and old. We could totally use those for
Yeah.
big pumpkin patches or strawberry patches and things like that. And, dress them up a little bit or put them in an area where it doesn't really get seen so much. Pumpkin patch is going to sprawl anyway. So I think also changing your mindset about what your garden looks like and
Hmm.
stop having these Instagram or Pinterest worthy gardens because those people probably spend a lot of money having someone maintain their garden.
Hmm.
Or when you think about people that you see on YouTube like Hugh Richards and Charles Dowding, they've got teams of people there
Yeah.
helping them with these projects. So yeah, just thinking about what you actually really need from your garden too, I think is really important.
That's it. That's it. It's the
Sorry,
function,
Dave.
isn't it? It's what is going to
Yes.
work for you from a functional level and an aesthetic level, and where can you make some compromises? And there might only be
Mm.
short term compromises. So you might put
Mm.
bathtubs in for 2 or 3 years until all of a sudden someone goes, "Hey, someone's getting rid of a water tank down the way. You guys interested?" And you're like, "Oh, perfect. This is exactly what we've been looking for." And then you repurpose those bathtubs into something else. And there's nothing stays static. So you're always looking at how can I reuse and
Mm.
integrate all of the elements together. So yeah, there's
Yeah.
lots of ways that you can be really frugal. I love being frugal. I find it a little bit of a challenge to go, right, where can I save some money? And it's not, I don't know, maybe it arcs back to when I was a bit younger and I was as broke and I didn't have a choice. I had to be frugal to eat and to pay my rent. Um,
Yeah.
but now, we're lucky we've set ourselves up quite well. And, we don't
Mm.
have to be super frugal, but we are because I don't like,
Yeah.
you know, paying paying a heap of money for overpriced, flimsy
Yeah.
things because they happen to have a particular brand name on them, or that's what the latest guru is telling you to use. So you just got to get
Mm.
creative, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, thinking outside the box, like one of our resources that we were thinking about, how can we access more of it was wood ash because it's summer.
Mm.
We haven't been doing fires. We don't have an indoor fireplace or anything like that. We went down to the national park and we saw all these people having fires. So we contacted the local national park manager and said, "Hey, what do you guys do when you clean out all the fire pits that are sitting there?" And they said, "Oh, we just gather it up and we go, you know, dump it at the back of one of our properties that we've got, like one of the employees' properties." And I was like, "Well, can you come dump it at my place? Like, is that doable? I live down the road." And he's like, "Yeah, I'll come with the trailer on the day we do it and come pick it up." And,
Brilliant.
there's so many things if you actually, yeah, if you observe and think and, yeah, just kind of push the boundaries a little bit of, thinking about how you can access these resources.
I would love to see what other people have done. So if you are a part of the Facebook Permaculture, Practical Permaculture Podcast Facebook group. Let me get that out in one go. Then, yeah, share with us what you've got. And if you're not, jump on and become a member. I'd love to see what you've done and how you've been able to keep costs down in, any part of your garden, because that one picture or that one little story can inspire someone to go, oh yeah, I hadn't even thought about
Mm,
that. I've got all of this available to
yeah,
me, and you can save someone
yeah,
else a whole bunch of heartache and a whole bunch of money.
so true.
All right, we'll pop the links in the show notes, but that's it. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Practical Permaculture podcast. Jump onto our Facebook group to keep the chat going and to look for any resources that we mentioned on today's show. Look in the show notes.
And if you enjoyed today's episode, then please give us a like, a review, and share with your friends. And if you didn't, then that's okay. We're sure you'll find the right podcast for you.